Ashraf Haidari is the Afghan ambassador to Sri Lanka. He was himself a refugee in Islamabad before seeking asylum in the United States. Thank you for joining us on the program. So you were a refugee in Islamabad in the mid-1990s. Describe to us what your experience was like then, and do you think much has changed since?
Much has not changed, unfortunately, because of continued instability and insecurity and the form of an imposed war in Afghanistan. And that's basically the push factor that has driven Afghans outside of our country and places like Pakistan and Iran and outside. As it was just pointed out by both the UNHCR representative and the refugee man who just spoken of, also government officials of Pakistan, that once peace has returned to Afghanistan and once security is returned to Afghanistan, indeed with the direct support of the government of Pakistan, because it is in Pakistan, as we know, where the Taliban leadership and operational infrastructure lie that drives the insurgency and the terror campaign in our country that basically pushes out these refugees outside the country. So once this peace process, which is began in earnest and which we are firmly committed to, is going to help restore peace in Afghanistan with the support of the international community. The refugees will return home in large influxes, as they have done in the past, both in the early 1990s when there was some hope that had been emerging, and again in 2001 when the Taliban were overthrown and Afghans became hopeful that peace would return, and therefore they returned home by millions. But since the situation has deteriorated, more and more Afghans have gone back.
So if you can, describe to us what some of these refugees might be feeling, because as you mentioned, Pakistan does want to start repatriating refugees, but many of these people have been in Pakistan for decades, and Pakistan is the home that they've known for 40 years. And do they even have a home to return to in Afghanistan?
In most cases, they don't, unfortunately. As you pointed out, they've been away for the past 40 years. They haven't had the opportunity to come back to Afghanistan and receive the kind of short-term recovery and long-term reintegration support to restart their lives and acquire livelihoods that would help and sustain them. So we are grateful on the one hand to the government of Pakistan, to the people of Pakistan for continuing to shelter our refugees. But on the other hand, the government of Pakistan can help the peace process in Afghanistan so that peace and stability return, and so that paving the way for Afghan refugees to return home on a sustainable basis. So that's where things stand, and we also should highlight the fact that Afghan refugees are not dependent on the government of Pakistan, that you just saw that they're working casual labor, the kinds of jobs that Pakistani citizens are not willing to work, and as well as also in the small and medium, mid-sized and even larger sized businesses, which directly contribute to the economy of Pakistan. And so over the past 40 years, Afghans have more or less assimilated, on the one hand, contributing to their host society, on the other hand, willing to return home, willing to repatriate as soon as the situation in Afghanistan is stabilized, and stabilized on a sustainable basis with the guarantees provided by the government of Pakistan that the safe sanctuaries the Taliban enjoy on their soil will close down, that the Taliban would come home and start direct talks with our government, as have offered, and as it is ongoing right now between the United States and the Taliban and Doha, that the next phase is talks with Afghan government and Afghan people, so that this phase enters into a situation which would bring real and sustainable peace to our society.
Right. We heard Antonio Guterres say that Pakistan's solidarity and compassion for hosting Afghan refugees is a remarkable blueprint that the rest of the world should follow. So what can the rest of the world learn from seeing how Pakistan has hosted these millions of refugees for decades?
I agree with the Secretary General that there has to be burden sharing, that the international community should share the burden of refugees as a result of conflicts that are ultimately imposed on societies like Afghanistan. So, one or two countries shouldn't pay, for the situation, but all countries around the world and in our own region should pool resources through mechanisms such as UNHCR to help refugees in sustainable ways. In case of Afghans, as the representative of UNHCR in Pakistan pointed out, the focus of international aid should be on helping Afghans get education, the skills that they need to get sustainable jobs as long as they're in Pakistan to make a contribution to that economy, but also to use those skills in education on a return home to restart their new lives in Afghanistan. Because in most cases, the assistance wouldn't be there, or it wouldn't be there for some time as soon as they arrive back home. So the focus of the international aid should be to help prepare refugees gain the skills and gain the education and the support that they need, be it in case of Afghan refugees, be it in case of Syrian refugees or Yemeni refugees. And around the world, the problems and the challenges are basically the same. And so governments that single-handedly have supported these large refugee populations do deserve to be supported by the whole international community through effective mechanisms such as UNHCR.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time, Ashraf Haidari, Afghan ambassador to Sri Lanka.